Welcome, everyone. We are very grateful that you're able to join us today. I'm here going to burn some sage here to honor all of our relations and to kind of create that space and that intent, just for us to imagine and to visualize, despite which many people may perceive as limitations, that we're not able to be here present physically, but we're here not through the eyes that we can see here, but the eyes of our heart. And so I'm burning the sage to kind of create that circle. Just imagine that, sharing that medicine and for us to kind of breathe in that fresh medicine, that sage medicine, and for us to welcome everyone here and to think about those who are going to be joining us. And so in that way, I'm really thankful that we're back again for our tagline for our workshop series this year is Honoring Your Resilience, our Zoom virtual series, today, August 4th, 2021. And we're starting today our first kickoff for our 4-week Indigenous Wellness Workshop series. Today's topic is historical greatness and lateral goodness, generational thinking and doing. In a moment, I'm going to introduce our special guest, but this event is sponsored by the Indian Health Center of Santa Clara Valley, Counseling Prevention Services. And my name is Iwi Papali. My family, community, and friends know me as Iwi for short. I am from the Mexica, Pame, Guamare, and Yarika tribes, both from my mother and father's side. I am project coordinator for the Traditional Path to Wellness program. And with that, I am also it's important that I introduce, briefly our team, because for this event and for all of our events in our program to be successful, it takes a whole community to put these events together. And we have our planning committee, and we also have our counseling prevention services team. And so these are our superheroes. And so I just wanted to share our team and acknowledge our team thank you for assisting in making this event possible and being able to assist in organizing our presenters. I also would like to take the time to acknowledge the original homeland, the caretakers of the Muwekma Ohlone of the tribes that include the following counties of San Francisco, San Mateo, most of Santa Clara County, Alameda, Contra Costa, portions of Napa, Santa Cruz, Solano, and San Joaquin. As we can see a picture at the bottom, there's more than, from what I understand, over 750 tribal members now here in this area of the Muwekma Ohlone. And I'm taking the time to create that space and honor their not only ancestral memory, but that they're still thriving today. And this teaches us to walk in a humble way, because before Columbus was lost at sea, there was millions of indigenous peoples in the northern and southern hemisphere. And so I just wanted to take the time to honor them and thanking them in a humble way, that we're in their home space, and in their honor, we're going to continue this work. And now we're going to open with a prayer. We're honored to have our special guest today. She's one of our community elders. Her name is Delia de la Rosa Navarro. She was born in Portland, Oregon, and raised in San Jose, California. She's from the Huichol tribe of Mexico. Delia has been married for over 54 years with her husband, Ernie. She has 2 daughters, 8 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren. She's been the active part of our Native community for many years. We're honored to have her here to share some words of encouragement, along with an opening and closing prayer at the end of our workshop. Welcome, Delia. I'll go ahead and unmute you here.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for giving me this honor to be on here with you, to join you. I'd like to open with a prayer for this whole community during all this trying time that we have all gone through, and who knows what still lies up ahead for some of us. Want to get thank you for the hands that feed us, for the hands that help us. I want to give lots and lots of prayers for those who have been attacked with the virus and are still struggling with it. To those children who we will never see again, and that we some way are able to stop this from happening ever again. That we continue to pray for the missing and murdered women and men, and that we continue to hold all of our family in our arms and embrace them and love them as much as we can, to teach our children the right way to live, to teach them with respect, to show respect. I'm not really good at saying prayers. I just tell you.
Speak my language, so we know our spirits can speak to each other. Bonjour, Ogama Beneshe, Anagon Donjaba, Makwan and Dodom, Nishnabe Minwa Honashoni and Dow, East Lansing, Michigan and Dow. I'm Don. I'm calling in from Alexandria, Virginia, in the basement of a hotel in Old Town, Virginia, and I'll give a story of why I'm doing here. But I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, and I currently live in East Lansing, Michigan. So go green, Michigan State fan out there, yeah. But I'm excited to be out here. Anacita reached out to Maria and I think we were together, Maria, when we got the text, and it's like, Anacita's reaching out. Yes, whatever she wants. And I have a very warm place in my heart for Santa Clara Valley and the community there. I had the privilege of working with the community on the Circles of Care project, and I want to say might be close to 5 years. Anacita can let me know, but it's been a while, and it goes by really fast. But I had the privilege of working with that awesome team on that Circles of Care, which was a grant-funded project, and just had a blast working with Anacita and the team there. And I've always wanted to find ways to get reconnected with Santa Clara Valley. In addition to working with the awesome community, there's awesome food in San Jose. And I just text Anacita. I was like, man, Original Joe's, let me know, is Original Joe's still open over there?
Yes, it is.
All right, that's my jam, man.
Yeah, it's still rolling.
Yeah, Maria and I have some good stories of that. Maria made friends with a waiter, and we would go in and check in, and we would say we're here, and he would whisk us in front of the line, take us to the best seats, get us antipasta, and start just feeding us. And it was that's the magic of Maria. So I'm grateful for Maria for jumping on, and thanks, Maria. We'll have a good time together. I planted some ringers in the crowd there, so Maria is one of them. All right, awesome. Well, I'm excited to be here with everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day. I think it's the end of the day for you guys over there on West Coast time. I'm on East Coast time. So I just appreciate people taking the time out and jumping on here. That means a lot. So I kind of had a little bit of a process and a flow, but really where I like to come from is, speaking from my heart and, having an engaging conversation. And just to let you know what I've been doing for the last 2 days, my day job, I guess, is I've been a deputy project manager for a national TA center that works across Indian country. And we support communities around suicide prevention, mental health. So I could do a lot of GONAs and have been doing those for about 15 years now. And I do a lot of facilitation, but I also do a lot of administrative work. And so what I got asked to do the last 2 days here is facilitate a virtual meeting with Indian leaders across Indian country on policies that are impacting Indian Health Services and SAMHSA. And so that was pretty enlightening, pretty honored to be at the table and help facilitate those conversations. And I get to ask to do some of those big federal meetings here and there, which I enjoy. But I tell you, what I really enjoy is working with the communities and the grassroots communities, because I think that's to me, that's where things need to come from the grassroots up and not from the top down. And I always think about how do we create healthy space for community to honor and bring up the solutions that are already there in the people here. And so that's kind of where I come from. I've been doing this work, you know, I guess 15 years on the federal side. I was a behavioral health director at an urban clinic in Detroit for about a year or so there. So I supervised the clinical staff, and then been doing federal TA work, and now doing independent consulting here and there. So yeah, we get to meet a lot of cool people, and so it's been fun journey. And I have to say, for all the projects, Santa Clara Valley, Indian Health, you guys are saving lives every day. All the programs that you're doing in counseling, in prevention, even the folks running the budgets, right? You know, make sure everyone gets paychecks, you know, and the janitors, the facilitator, the facility people, everyone plays a role in helping that community. So I want to honor all those folks. The front desk staff, when I worked at the clinic, is like, you had to be good with the front desk staff, because they helped hook everything up. Their first point of contact, and the facility folks. So I have a special place in my heart for folks who are interacting with community and day to day. So thank you for all the work that you guys do in the communities. And we have mothers and fathers and aunties and grandmas and uncles on the line too. So I would really want to say thank you for the work that you do. So the first thing I want to do in the chat to get just a little bit and actually get a feel for the room here is we're going to do a scale, right? Scale 1 to 5. So 5 being like, oh, I'm doing awesome, incredible, can't do any better. And 1's like, oh man, maybe I need another cup of coffee, or, you know, just a little off today. So the folks on here on the chat, if you could just put your number in there, 1 to 5. All right. So go ahead and put it in chat. I just want to get the feel for the room here, how everyone's doing. And I'll take the first healthy risk. I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling really good with folks. Yeah, we got some 3s. All right, so in the middle, we got 3.5. Someone's going to put 3.7.6. All right, we got a 4 in there. Awesome, awesome. Let's see what are you doing, Auntie Delia? How you feeling today? What's your number? You're 3? You say 3? All right. Oh, 3. All right. Yeah, April and Ruby at 3. So we're kind of in the middle here. That's good. So my hope and my hope and wish and goal is to take you up just a little bit. If you're staying where you're at, that's all right. But I really want to see a 3 become a 4 and a 4 become a 5, because you're worthy to be here, and I want to make this a useful amount of time. So what I'm going to get talking about is, and we're already starting to do it, developing a sense of belonging, right? And so the title of the presentation is Historical Greatness and Lateral Goodness and Generational Thinking and Doing. And the first place I want to start is why this is important, right? Why, and people feel free to put in the chat too. Why do we think historical greatness? What do you think, guys, think historical greatness is? Actually, that might be a good place to start. You can put in the chat and think about it as you go. For the people, and maybe an emojis, like a reaction, a thumb up. How many people have heard of historical trauma? Historical trauma. All right. You put your thumb up or raise your hand if you got your camera on there. Yeah. All right, cool. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Historical trauma. So this is for folks that are, you know, we got grant writers on here. You're chasing the grant dollars. There's this idea of what's your need, right? And you have to tell your worst story about your community in order to get funding to address the issues in your community. So it's important for us to understand what is historical trauma. But from my perspective, it's more important for us to build off the historical greatness and the lateral goodness. So one of the reasons I wanted to focus on this is we have to kind of start changing the way that we think in order to change the way what we're doing in communities. And we have to challenge ourselves. You know, I'll share throughout the time we have today. You know, I grew up in an alcoholic family, a lot of violence, a lot of drug abuse, both sides, my mother and father. My grandmothers on both sides are survivors of boarding schools. My grandmother survived System Wahpeton boarding school. She was taken when she was about 5 or 6 and didn't come back until she was about 16 or 17. And then on my mom's side, she was taken to residential school in Canada called the Mohawk Institute. And so around the same age. So I'm a product of the stolen generation and our stolen generation and the boarding schools. And my father is a Vietnam veteran and did a lot of work for American Indian movement. So I grew up going to rallies and protests. And some of my first memories is being on the state capitol steps and having a rally for the Michigan Indian tuition waiver in Michigan. And that, I just remember started walking, I was there with my parents. So some of the stuff is ingrained in me. And, you know, this is one of the reasons I do this work is that for a long time, and there might be some younger folks, I'm 39, so I'm not up there, but I'm also not down there. I'm not a young buck anymore. And I learned that I went to basketball camp with my daughter, and boy, I'm not as young as I used to be. So I was really, really sore. But the idea is that for a long time, I had a lot of anger, and had a lot of anger, and I didn't know where that was coming from. And it took mentors, it took time, it took patience, took ceremony for me to understand that it's not what's wrong. Because I used to walk around, what's wrong with my dad? You know, what's wrong with my mom? What's wrong with my family? You know, why they keep doing this? Why they keep leaving me in random places? It's not about what's wrong, but it's about what happened. And that's one of the first things I want to put on the table for folks is, and this is a practice skill, you have to start asking yourself what happened, not what's wrong. And when we start going down the road of what's wrong, that gets us in blame and shame. And blame and shame feeds the energy of the negative, and it feeds the energy and keeps us marinating in the historical trauma. And when I say this, I don't mean that we have to gloss over historical trauma. What I'm saying is that we have to understand that and know that's a part of our story, but it also, we don't need to marinate in the trauma. We need to build off the resilience. So that was one of the first things I started when I started realizing that it wasn't what's wrong, but what happened to my family, and start understanding the impacts of historical trauma, which in my immediate family is boarding schools, post-traumatic stress syndrome, alcoholism, various forms of violence that had root causes. My family is also a product of relocation. I know the Bay Area was one of the hubs for relocation as well, just like Detroit and Chicago and LA and these major cities. So my family was, you know, removed to Detroit. And so that's where I was born and raised there. So it's been a long road to understand that. And I know we have a youth group up here, and I want to make sure there's not a question. There was a hand raised at historical trauma. So if there's a question, you know, jump off mute and jump right in. I don't want to keep everyone, I get tired of hearing myself talk too, so I want to have a dialogue as best we can. But if there's a question, go ahead and jump in. So that's, you know, a little bit about me and, you know, why I came to do this work, and about the, you know, what's not what's wrong, but what happened. And I think there might be some young people on here. I don't know the ages on here. That might be good for feedback on the chat. But I used to go to a youth group when I was about 13 in Detroit, and I started singing at the drum when I was about 10, and I was super shy. Maybe you wouldn't recognize that now, But when I would get into youth groups, we would sit down in a circle. I was like, oh man, they're gonna make us talk, aren't they? And I would have to find the exit. What's my exit strategy here, so I don't have to talk? Because I was one of those guys that would say my name and then start crying. Why am I crying? Then I would get upset. I'm crying, and then get mad, and so I'd be crying and mad and upset, and it was just marinated in the chaos. I was manufacturing my own chaos there, and I was like, man, why did that keep happening? Is that without knowing that, and a lot of my families, and maybe some of your families out there, we get addicted to chaos, and that happens in our families. One of the impacts of, I want to spend just a little bit of time on historical trauma, because I think we need to understand it to really dive into the historical resilience and the lateral goodness that I really want to spend most of the time talking on. So the part of, you know, what happened, not what's wrong, right? That's one of the first questions we have to ask ourselves. And looking at my family and where they came from, and being in those circles and being afraid to talk and don't want to share, and, you know, being really super shy about doing things, I kept showing up. So if I had any advice for the young people out there that you might, you know, be shy going to these youth programs, you know, speaking in front of groups, my best advice is just continue to show up, just continue to be there and be present. And you have great mentors that are on this call here, I can tell, and they're going to be there to support you and listen to you. And, you know, it becomes easier to be able to share your story and start seeing your story. And once you start being able to do that, you can start owning your story, and then the world is limitless for you. So keep showing up. I always think back to my 13-year-old, 14-year-old self, and kind of wish someone would have told me that then. It's just, you know, just keep showing up, and things will be good. So if you started singing at the drum, just keep showing up, you'll get better. You know, if you go to youth programs and after school programs, just keep showing up. You go to powwow club or language class, you know, just keep showing up, and things will be good, and things will happen for you. So one of the first impacts for trauma is that we lose the ability to vision and to plan. And this kind of gets to what I was saying about being addicted to chaos. So the impacts of trauma, right? And I don't know, and you can put a raise of thumb or a raise of hand if this is true in your families, is my family waited for the next crisis to happen, and or they manufactured crisis to happen on the home front, in the family, because what happens is that unhealthy norm becomes normalized in our family. And we start thinking that's the only way to live. That's the only way to survive this, is that we have to manufacture our chaos. We don't even know that at this moment, because we think that's just normal way of life. I thought it was normal for me to see my cousins in gang in and out of prison, to see my parents drunk, to not know where I was when my parents went to the bar. That was normal. That was normalized. And if it wasn't for programs like Santa Clara Valley, I'm sure I had similar programs. I was part of Dream Seekers in Detroit, urban collective of young people, that I got exposed to something different. And then I started realizing, hey, there's a different way of being. You don't have to be like this. Chaos doesn't have to be the norm. That really fed in my spirit that there's a different way of walking in the world, and what you can do in the world. And so I started understanding that, you know, my family has a lot of alcoholism and a lot of drug abuse and violence, and they're addicted to those things, and they're also addicted to chaos. And it becomes normalized in how we do business, and that becomes a cycle, right? That we kind of consistently get in that cycle. And there's ways of breaking that cycle. There's ways of breaking that cycle. And this is where I want to transition. And if I can, I want to share a quick slide. There's one slide. I'm not a PowerPoint person by any means, but I do have one slide. So I think I can share it. That kind of covers, because I'm also visual. So let me make sure. Thanks, Maria. Let me make sure that can come up here. All right, you probably see my crazy desktop. All right, can you see that slide in front? Let me bring your cameras back up so I can see your beautiful faces. Okay, let me see if I can go down a little bit. All right. So this is the meat and potatoes of what I want to talk about, and I'm also going to ask Maria to have a dialogue with me a little bit on here, because I really appreciate anything that Maria has to offer. Maria is the Jedi, so my mentor there, good friend, and I would go be in the trenches with Maria any day, anytime with things. So if we look on the left side, right, historical trauma, lateral violence, current trauma, that is the world that some of us live in, right? Those where we marinate in those items. And if we're not exposed to something different, and that's why I say the programs that you guys are doing, this webinar series, right? This is exposing people to something just a little bit different. And this is so critical, so important that you're spending your time and your resources and doing things like this, because it helps plant a seed. Someone on here might not never heard the things that might be shared, not by me, but maybe for other folks coming up, that just might tap something in their spirit and their mind and say, you know what, I could be different. My family could be different. I want something different for my family. And there's ways of changing that. And so I can't underestimate the work that you guys do, and having opportunities like this, it's saving lives. So historical trauma, lateral oppression, current trauma. So we see that on the left side, right? Then we look on the right side here, and this is the part that, to me, this is sustainability. This is what you build off. If we're building off the trauma, right, or the lateral oppression or the current trauma, we're putting band-aids on things, and we're not really looking at the sustainability of it. I tell communities that are going after grant dollars, if you don't have a really solid plan of how to use those dollars are going to use you. You're going to be chasing around reports, trying to spend the money, and you're not going to get really anything out of it for your families and community. But this is also on a personal level too, that if you don't really have a plan, a philosophy of life, right, then you're really going to be shaped and really kind of contained. I had a slide here, I don't have it up, but one of our mentors, Barb Aragon, who's from California, one of the originators of the GONA, I always want to give a shout out to Barb Aragon, is that she had the good saying that, sometimes we feel we're getting shaped into a tin can, right? So if you picture a tin can and then you picture a basket, we have a lot of beautiful baskets all over Indian country. And you can't go to Walmart, you can't buy those on Amazon. You have to go out into the country, into the land, and harvest those things. And it's just like harvesting those things, you got to play reciprocity, right? For us as an Anishinaabe, we put some tobacco down and we have a conversation with the plant. We ask it if we can take it, and this is what we're going to use you for. So we have a vision, we give a plan to that plant, and we give some tobacco because it's reciprocity. And then that plant gives itself up to us, and we make those baskets that we hold good things into it. That's who we are. We're baskets, we're not tin cans, right? But the only way that we can recognize that we're worth those baskets, we're made of the land and that reciprocity, is that we have to see our story. We have to understand our story and where we come from. And we have to acknowledge the hard things that happen in our life, but know that we're built off resilience. You are the best of your ancestors, right? You're prayed into this webinar session, right? You're prayed into the seats where you're at now. You're aware you need to be in this moment. And you're worthy to be there, and you're worthy to get better. You're worthy to learn your language. You're worthy to practice your culture, to get your Indian name, to learn how to sew, to learn how to sing and dance. You're worthy to go to school. You're worthy to do all those things. And you're worthy to shape your own story. And so I want to start looking at the right side of this picture, of the historical resilience and the lateral goodness and the healing and planning that we need to do. So this is another thing. If there's a reaction on this side, there's an opposite and equal reaction there. That's a natural law of the world, right? So if we know historical trauma, we talked a little bit about that. Lateral violence. Do you guys know that gossip? Everybody raise a hand. Do you think gossip is a form of lateral violence? Oh yeah. Words have power. Words have power. So gossip is who in here has been either a victim or has fed into gossip? How many? Yep, raise a hand. Both hands, both sides. I've done it both. I'm guilty. But acknowledging that words have power. We think about social media, and especially it's hard to be a young person nowadays. It's hard to be a young person. Growing up, I'm 39, right? I'm not too far removed from that, but I am removed from, we never had cell phones or Facebook, that when we post something on social media, it's always forever going to be there, right? We didn't have to think about, oh man, if I put this up, it's always going to be there. That's something that our young people have to think about. And we as mentors in the community, we really have to champion and help our young people understand that we have to be mindful of what we put out there, because it's always going to stay out there. The lateral goodness. Yeah, go ahead, Maria.
Don, thank you for asking me to speak or to interject here. I've heard you say this before, and yet I'd like to have you illustrate for us lateral oppression. And I like how you tell that story, what it could look like, because that makes it more clear for us. How do we start moving towards lateral goodness? Which I love how you explain that, how we're doing lateral oppression or woundedness to each other.
Right. I'm gonna do a visual aid here in live time.
Oh man, I love it.
I know. Hopefully we can see this here.
And I can relate to everything that you're talking about here, because we're not our woundedness, but sometimes we really identify with that a lot. And that
right.
sometimes maybe even has become our identity until we start reshaping and letting go some of those things. So you got your illustration ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
I don't know how people can see it. You might be able to see it a little bit. Okay, it's an axis here. I'm not going to get all nerdy on you, but historical trauma, right? Historical means the things are passed down over generations, right? So it's passed down and it becomes normalized, right? Then what happens is, this is a great book called Pedagogy of the Oppressed, Pablo Freire. If you ever read that book, I really encourage you to look it up. Pedagogy of the Oppressed. What that says, and this is what happens, is if this is a learned trait, right, historical trauma, it's a learned thing, then we say, oh, this is how we need to be. We need to keep each other down. We need to gossip about each other. We need to not support each other, right? So that becomes lateral violence, and happens in multiple different ways, because there's multiple different ways of violence, right, that happen in communities. So historical trauma passed down, and then lateral violence is what happens, what we do to each other, to our families, to other people in our communities. So if I was in a room with you guys, I would sit on a chair and I would tap someone on the shoulder and say, I'm historical trauma coming down. And I have someone sit next to you, and then you would pat that person on the arm, not hard, right? But the idea that you're patting it, that's lateral violence that happens in communities, right? We can see that. And if I ask this question, we can spend a whole 2 hours talking about this. What are forms of historical trauma? What are forms of lateral violence, right? And I'm not saying we need to gloss over. We need to understand the impacts of boarding schools. That has a direct connection to the forms of violence that we face today, to missing and murdered indigenous women and men, to the federal policies that impact our communities, to the structures and systems that we live in, right? To the federal, state, and city policies that our communities are marginalized in those systems, right? Those are all directly affected by elements of historical trauma, racism, police brutality. Those are all have something that is root causes. And this is what I tell you, it's the honest from me, is Indian country, urban, reservation, we are at the forefront of collective healing as a community. If we look around at society, society is struggling about, you know, how to address these issues. You know, they want to do healing. They're even scared to say that we have to do healing. But if you go to any of our gatherings, any of our communities, we'll talk about the importance of healing. My brother there lit some sage for us, right? We're doing it virtually. You know, COVID can't stop our desire and eagerness to support each other and find ways to heal. So our communities are at the forefront, and I want to put out there because I want to champion our communities, that as much things that we have been through as families, as individuals, as communities, I want you to know that we're at the forefront. We're champions of community healing and collective healing. Is that greater society are going to look at our communities and say, how in the heck are you still here? Right? Because you're walking, all indigenous people are walking miracles. If you think about all those things our ancestors and relatives have been through, you're walking miracles. And I want the young people to hear this too. And also, you know, our aunties and uncles, if you never heard this before, you know, even if you're not indigenous to that part of where you call home right now, if you're not indigenous people from there, you are indigenous from this planet here. And if you walk outside, you know that you're close to your indigenous land, indigenous roots. When I walk, I am blessed that I get to live in my traditional homelands in the Great Lakes area. I live in Michigan. That's where Anishinaabe people have always been. That's where our creation story started. And this is something that's powerful, is that not too many people can walk on the land and say, this is where our creation story happened. These stories of Nanabuju, Winnabuju are heroes and our spirits in our traditional story. This is the place that these stories happen. And if we look around greater society, there's a lack of being rooted in a place. And I think the land acknowledgements are really important. I'm grateful that we did it today. And I live close to a university that land acknowledgements have become kind of a fad in one way, kind of check the box type of thing. And they're always looking for the Indian people to do land. Hey, you're Indian, come do a land acknowledgement. And I had to tell someone recently and say, listen, I think it's important for you as a non-indigenous person to do a land acknowledgement. Because to me, the land acknowledgement is about how you're connected to this place. You might not be indigenous, but you raise a family here, you work here, so you have a responsibility to this place too. And it's good to pay respects to the land that you walk on, the people that were here before you and are still here. It's important to acknowledge that, but it's important to acknowledge your relationship as well to that. And I also tell that person, said, you know, if you continue to look for indigenous people to do the land acknowledgements, then it's also a form of trauma. If you think about it, because you're asking this native person to come up and either share a song or story and talk about this land, and knowing this land was stolen from them, this place, this university, this institution. So you're doing another form of trauma if you're not careful about it. And I really had to give in a good way, you know, I didn't get mad, but people have to realize that could be another form of trauma if they're not careful with that, because the land knowledge is about honoring the people who are traditional owners of that area, and also your connection to that area, being a non-indigenous person. So sorry, I got off a tangent there, but the idea is I want us to appreciate who we are, you know, and where we come from, the stories that we have. We're made up of our stories. That's all we are. We're stories, and that's where our humanity is, right? That's how we understand what it means to be a human being. Take a second and think about that. That often in society, that we're a title, right? We're so this, so and that. And to me, one of the most important titles is a father, right? Or husband, or auntie, or uncle. Those are important titles. But also think about, what does it mean to be a human? How do you understand what it means to be a human living here? And for me, I understand my humanity through understanding what it means to be an Anishinaabe, an indigenous man. What does it mean to me? That's how I understand my humanity, and that's how I want to see someone else's humanity. And that is the historical resilience. That's the historical greatness that we have ingrained in who we are, in our epigenetics in there. How many of you have heard blood memory before? Either in passing, I heard someone talk about the idea of blood memory. And Maria, I want to ask Maria, because she does a great job about this, in blood memory. So Maria, if someone asks you, what does it mean? What does blood memory mean? How would you explain it?
Well, what's really awesome is that our ancestors, and I know my abuelita would talk about that, who we are is in our blood. It's in our sangre. And even the Latin language, sangre, which means sacred, which is sacred. And she would say that you know what to do because it's in you. There's a part of you that will always know, yes, this is what I need to do, or I shouldn't do that. And your own blood even informs you of places that you shouldn't go. You know, or part of you that when you witnessed violence or cruelty, like where you were talking about the lateral violence. And there must have been a part in you as a child, and I know it was a part of me as a child, when I would witness or be a part of cruelty, and I would go, that's not right. That's not right. And I would even question, you know, surely this is not my family, because this is not the way we treat each other. I mean, and I've talked to other people and I go, man, oh, is it just me, or did you feel like you were dropped into a situation that you just did not recognize? Your own spirit, your own alma didn't understand what you were seeing, you know, what you were experiencing. And then the term epigenetic information, I became aware of that probably about 20 years ago, and been studying it ever since then. And what we're learning in epigenetics is that things that happen to you, and things that happen to your parents, and things that happen to your grandparents, and all your grandparents going all the way back, everything that they experienced, that they breathed, that they ate, that they saw, you know, so going around that medicine wheel, things that spiritually, how it came into them, physically, emotionally, mentally, actually creates a chemical and an electronic signature on your very cell structure, on your DNA. And the way I heard it from our own people, my own tias, my aunties, was they had like rules about if a woman was pregnant. They would say, women who are pregnant or carrying a life shouldn't look at animals fighting. Don't look at those dogs fighting, or don't be around people who are arguing, because that's going to mark the child. And because I was a smart ass, I'll just say that and go,
No, Maria, not
yes,
you.
yes,
Not Maria.
yes. So, like you, I like the visual aids, right? So I
Uh-huh.
thought, oh, is somebody going to go with a big marker and go like that to the baby? But what my parents were saying was absolutely true. And now through epigenetics, we know this. So
Yeah.
if a mom, and what we're also learning is that if the dad, the donor of the sperm that creates that life, if they've been surrounded by anger, if they've been surrounded by ugly things, or maybe if their body was swimming in alcohol or drug or violence, that genetic material actually is marked through a system that they call methylation. It actually changes the DNA. And so instead of being just, let me grab one of my necklaces over here. Instead of it just being wrapped loosely around the protein bonds, it's tight. And let me get another thing. I'm going to get my little bottle here. and say this is somebody yelling. Maybe this is drugs. Maybe this is alcohol. Maybe this is violence. Maybe this is war. All those things that went through in our communities. Now this is attached to the DNA, but now the DNA is not in contact with the protein, which helps the DNA know what to do. The DNA that says, this is going to be the color of your eyes. This is going to be your beautiful heart and your lungs. This is going to be your beautiful skin. This is your liver. This is your kidneys. Those things will be affected. Dr. Rachel Yehuda, who's been working at Mount Sinai Hospital, has been studying this because they were doing studies a long time ago and saying, why is it the children of Jewish people who went through the Holocaust, that their children seem to have health problems? Well, she took a look at it and she goes, I don't think it's just Jewish children. So she was studying mice and traumatized mice. And in one of her studies that she was doing, they traumatized the moms. And while they were traumatizing, they introduced a little smell. It was almond flowers, almond smell. They didn't do anything to the babies. And then they didn't even traumatize the mice that were born. All they had to do was introduce the smell of the flower. Those baby mice would start exhibiting nervousness, the same way their grandmothers had exhibited nervousness when they traumatized them. And just by smelling the flower, the same smell that had been introduced, they were exhibiting the same trauma. And I started seeing these correlations in the work we've been doing and that I get to do with you and Barbara Aragon, and even there with our relatives at Santa Clara. And why it's been beautiful that we do the GONA, the Gathering of Native Americans, because I love this thing that you have on the computer for us, Resiliency Informed, because everything we're doing now is starting to heal our DNA. It's the same way it was impacted to methylize it so it affected in a negative way, by doing everything you were talking about, by going to ceremony and knowing our language and hearing our songs and doing our dances and connecting with the land. And I love that you're in your territory, because by doing the language, doing your songs on your own land, it not only heals you, but it even starts healing your relatives without them even knowing it. And they're going to be over there somewhere going like, what just happened?
Right.
You know, you be in your own house and you go, man,
Who
I
was
feel
that?
good. Somebody must have prayed for me. The same way that you know when somebody's sending bad feelings to you, right? And
Yeah.
we've all had that experience, but that's, thank you for asking me, but that's a long way to answer. But if people want more information, it's called epigenetics. It's a real thing. You Google it. There's even PBS programs on it. But I want to hear from you, Don. You were talking a little bit, but what are some of the things you do on a daily basis to take care of yourself, to re-energize and support your resiliency? How do you do that?
Right, right. And that's, I want to get, while I'm talking here, because we're going to get in the part here, I want people to get a piece of paper out if they can, just a
Uh-oh,
blank sheet of paper
I'm
and a
ready.
pen.
Get
We're going to
ready.
take notes. It's going to be quiz. It's going to be everything. No, just
Oh,
joking.
no.
No, just a piece of paper to jot some ideas down.
All right, I'm ready.
Go ahead and do that. But building off of you, Maria, what you just said, and I want to get back to that screen, right? This is what we're talking about, the historical greatness, the historical resilient. It's embedded in who you are as an indigenous person, right? It's embedded in who you are. It's embedded in the stories, in the culture, and the songs, and the language of who you are as an indigenous person walking this earth. It's there. And the idea that Maria walked through, right, and the epigenetics, right? Western science is just catching up to what indigenous people have known for eons. And they're calling it breakthrough, right? One quick example is in the 70s, they had James Lovelock had this theory called the Gaia theory, right? And at his time in the 70s was like, the Gaia theory essentially says that Earth is a living organism. And at that time, it was mind blowing for Western science. Oh my God, Earth is alive. It's living. And if you go to any indigenous person, they would, yeah, of course, duh, right? You know, it's like, that's how it is. But that was mind-blowing for Western science in the 60s and 70s. So if that's where they're coming from, the knowledge that you have, the ceremonies, the teachings that you get from your elders, that is worth more than its weight in gold. Right? It's so precious to hold on to those things, because the epigenetics, the blood memory, and this is the powerful thing. I want you guys really to hear me on this, is that if you're doing your healing work, if you're really acknowledging what's happened in your family, not what's wrong, but what happened, and start understanding and doing your work about what happened, why things are this way, and understanding the context, and not having shame and blame on you or your family or other people, then by you doing your healing work, you're not just healing yourself, you're healing the future generations, and you're healing the past generations that didn't have a chance to do that work. And so you're doing it all at the same time by what you're doing today. If you choose to say, I'm going to learn one word of my language once a week, and I'm trying to speak it. I'm going to try to learn a song or listen to some music this week. I'm going to say a nice word to someone that maybe I don't get along with, right? Because we always have that person, right? My daughter said, my son was saying, why didn't you say hi to that? I was talking to my daughter, why didn't you say hi to that person? And my son said, that's Sophia's mortal enemy. I said, how do you have mortal enemies in elementary school? But that was a teachable moment. It's like, people you might not get along with, you can say hi to them. Don't let those people take your humanity away from you. Don't deny your humanity. Don't let that power be taken away from you. You have humanity. You need to honor that in yourself and honor it in other people. So the things that I look to do on a daily basis, and it's a philosophy. Does someone have something to add? I want to make sure. On there. All right. I just want to make sure, because I know I've been talking a lot. So just raise your hand or jump right in. Get off mute and jump in there. So what I try to do, you got to have a philosophy, right, of how you take care of yourself, because this is something, and I want to be very careful in how I say this, all right, is that you can be against something, and it's important to acknowledge this is not right. We shouldn't do it this way. We need to put our energy toward that. But we also have to remember that we have to be for something. We have to be for something. We can't always be against something. And what I was telling, some folks where I live back home, they had protests because of residential schools. We know this, is that the things that are coming out in Canada, with the babies that have been murdered on the residential schools and boarding schools there, that Canada is going through their truth-telling process to understand that, they found close to 1,000 right now, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. And here in the States, Secretary of Interior Deb Haaland is looking to do that, and there's going to be a tip of the iceberg when we start looking at those things. I've been to the regional schools. Part of my healing journey is go back to where my grandmothers were taken and make peace the best way I can in those places. Every boarding school I've been to a lot of different communities. They've always been graveyards at these schools. And if you think to yourself, a logical person says, schools shouldn't have graveyards, right? Think about that. Schools shouldn't have graveyards. And I've seen the small names on there, the 5 months old, 2-year-old. Those are the babies that have gravestones. There's going to be a lot that don't, right? So there was protest, there was, awakening of a consciousness. And I think protest is important. I think getting involved is important, right? And I also think that you have to be ready to be for something too. Because if this moment asks us to wake our consciousness, right, to tap into our historical resilience and use our lateral goodness, right, to pull other people in and say, we need to wake each other up. We need to be about this. That you remember you have to be for something. What are you for? as well. And I don't have you guys have to answer that yourself. And maybe that's on the sheet of paper that you can write something. If someone asks, what are you for? What's your philosophy of life? What do you stand for as an individual, as a person? Jot that down on the piece of paper. What I'm going to ask a couple other questions, and just jot it down. And I'll tell you, if you keep this paper next to you, keep it somewhere. If you have bundles, keep it on your bundle. If you have an altar, and keep it there. If you look at it, those words are going to call you forward. What it's happening is you're doing, in some ways, doing your own naming ceremony to yourself, right? You put those things. What are you for? So if some people, if they're willing to take a healthy risk, we got raffles, right? And we're looking for healthy risk takers in there. In the chat, what are you for? If someone asks, that's a big dissertation question, right? But if someone wants to take a healthy risk in the chat to put in there, what do you stand for? What are you for? And think about that. I want to put these bigger questions out because sometimes the day-to-day, right? We get lost in the day-to-day. We have to pay the bills. All right, we have to wake up and get to work. We have to get the kids to school. We got to get lunch to them. We got to make sure we're not late for this. That the hustle and bustle of life, which is a reality, takes so much of our energy that sometimes we don't give the grace to ourselves to say, hey, wait a minute, what's my philosophy of life? How do I want to live my life? What do I want to do with this time, with this energy that I have as a living being right now? I'm going to use that. And for me, what I do on a daily basis is that I literally wake up and it's almost like a mantra to myself. What am I going to do today to make myself and the world a better place? That's a huge question, right? That's a big question. I, as an individual, Don, in a country of 3 million, of a planet of billions of people, will not change the systems overnight. But if I have this way of thinking and I train myself, then I can encourage myself to think differently, and then I will be doing differently. All right. So how we think is so powerful. One of our creation stories in the Anishinaabe is the first thing, there was empty, there was nothing. And the first thing that happened was the sound of thunder, and we have rattles. And that was the sound of we in our ceremonies and songs, that rattle is the one that shook. And that represents the first thing was happened was a creator's thought. The creator's thought was put out in the universe. Our thoughts are so powerful. If we think about that, how do we think about ourselves? Are we giving ourselves self-affirmations? And that's another thing I try to do every day. And it sounds silly, and this is why I love the Gona, because you have affirmation pictures. How many of you been to a Gona before? Raise a hand. Yeah. So you know this? You are worthy. You're worthy. And put it in front of you like this and say, I'm worthy. I'm worthy. And then it gets a little complicated, but you go back and forth and say, we're both worthy. We're both worthy. And then we'll put our hands up in the air, move it all around like we don't care, and say, we're all worthy. We're all worthy. That's positive affirmations. I'd never, ever, of the 15 years I've been doing Gonas, that when someone does it, that they don't have a smile on their face, right? Because it's a silly thing. It's like, man, I'm worthy. This is stupid. This is silly. And they stay with it, and pretty soon they're just cracking up. Ah! And then I see them later today. You're worthy. You're worthy. I'm worthy. Because our spirits are hungry for that self-affirmations, right? And we need to feed that in a good way. Sometimes we spend too much time feeding, oh, you're not worthy. Oh, you don't need to go for that job interview. Don't put your resume in. Don't study for that test. We have all this self-doubt, but that gets back to the elements of historical trauma, right? We kind of get addicted to that chaos if we're not careful. So that historical resilience, that we have to have a consistent philosophy and remind ourselves that we are worthy. We are worthy to learn our language. We're worthy to practice our ceremonies. We're worthy to be a present father, a present mother, a present auntie. We're worthy to be an awesome accountant, a social worker, a program manager. We're worthy to do all those things. And you got to have a philosophy of consistently tell yourself that. And it sounds silly. And I know, Maria and I like to be silly together. But humor is a good medicine, right? The funniest people that I know are in communities, and we can be the rawest and sometimes the toughest people, right? And I always tell white folks when they go to Indian country in an urban or reservation, if the community is not making fun of you, you have something to be afraid of, right? And we know this in our communities because we can gentle tease each other. And I always say that, you know, we do gentle teasing with each other is because we're loving on each other, right? But don't get me wrong, you can go off to bowling and we can be really hard with each other, right? Because those unhealthy norms kind of overtake. But humor has always been an important part of who we are, and that's another thing I do every day. I try to find the humor in life and to look at the good things of life and think in opposites, because this is something not too scientific, and Maria could correct me if I'm wrong here, that we have the lizard brain, right, in our brain, and it's the idea that we're ingrained to survive, right? Because we don't want to get eaten, and this is our ancestors way back when they had to make sure nothing they get eaten or killed or anything like that. So we have this survival brain in our heads, and we automatically go to the deficit. You know, if we don't train ourselves, we automatically go, oh, this is wrong, this is bad, we can't do that, you're not worthy to do that. And then we have these systems, right for the grants, we write for this, we do this, we blame and shame. It's reinforcing those negative connotations and negative voice that we have in our heads. But once you take a step back and realize that you have a choice to either participate in that or not participate in that, and you have a choice to feed the positive energy, right? You have a choice to feed that positive affirmation. That's the power that you have. Once you start recognizing that over and over, you start taking that power back. Maybe you're struggling with different form of addiction. You know, a lot of us are struggling with different forms of things. No one is perfect in this world, right? But you are worthy to take back your power, and make healthy decisions for you, and change those norms in your families and in your communities. See, and gets to the lateral goodness. I don't want to say I was the first one to say this, but I was at a Native Aspirations conference, and I was just talking with someone because I get tired of, and I get this from our young people out there. Our young people get tired. They're always telling us what's wrong, you know, or telling us what we're not doing, and tell us what's working, what's good. And that's that lateral goodness came from listening to young people saying, you know, let's build on something good that we're doing. And I share the story. Some of you, I know Maria's heard this a million times, but I could barely change a tire. You know, I'm sad. I can barely change a tire, and I can barely swing a hammer, and just sad. My father-in-law is like the handyman to the stars, so I have a lot to live up to. But I try to remodel my basement, and I knew I wasn't doing it well. I said, man, something like this just looks a little bit off. this drywall it doesn't look right. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna call my cousin. And so my cousin's saying, oh, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. Let me come up there. So he got there, he said, you're doing this wrong, you did that wrong. I said, whoa. Tell me what I did right, and let's start from there. And he said, okay, you stopped and you called me, and let's go from there. And I was like, all right, let's do it then. All right, I'm an open book now. So we have to understand what's not working. I'm not saying that we don't, but we have to understand what's not working. But we have to build off what is good. You know, what is working for us, what keeps us strong. That's the lateral goodness. If we're doing that on an individual basis, then we're going to be able to support someone else in their work. We can't do their work for it. That's another thing I want to make sure I say this, right? Because we can become codependent, right? You can't do someone else's healing work. All right, I'll say it again. You can't do someone else's healing work. You can support that person in their healing work, but you can't put in the work for them. You can be there when they're ready to do their own work. You can be there as a support, and that's where the lateral goodness comes in. And know that, like Maria was saying, if you're doing your work, your healing work, you're increasing the protective factors, the resilient factors of your family that are present with you. You're also healing your ancestors that came behind you, and you're getting ready for the ancestors that come in front of you. You guys probably seen the shirt in Indian country. It says, "Be a good ancestor." And I love seeing that shirt. It really makes me think. That's such a good, powerful thing to think about. What kind of ancestor do you want to be? So on your piece of paper, I asked you, what is your philosophy of life? I want you to answer, what kind of ancestor do you want to be? You're already someone's ancestor right now. And you're gifted with this time on this place, on this earth here. And we're enjoying it together. We're enjoying it through Zoom. Hopefully soon we can all come together in a safe way and be together and enjoy together more. But you're here now. What are you going to do today to be a good ancestor? That's generational thinking and doing right there. And if you ask yourself each day when you wake up, what can I do today to make myself better, to make the world a better place, and to support this philosophy of life that I'm cultivating, that will help me be a good ancestor. It's a day-to-day thing that it's, when I was younger, I love movies, right? I miss going to the movie. I haven't been to a movie theater in a year and a half, right? I got fully vaccinated, and as I just started going to restaurants again, but I haven't been out to the movie theater. But I love going to the movies. So growing up, my parents would get sober here and there, and they would take me to ceremonies, to powwows, and in my head I said, oh, I can't wait to go on my vision quest, because my dad said, oh, when you turn a certain age, you're going to become a man samurai. We're going to put you on your vision quest. And it did do that. But in my head, I was like, oh, I'm going to be out there. I'm going to have my blanket, I'm going to have my fire, and these spirits are going to come down. The eagles are going to come down and talk to me. A bear's going to walk up and, give me a high five. We're going to send the fires. You're going to tell me my vision, give me a name. That's in my head. Like, it's crazy, right? That I was thinking those things. But the reality of it is those sacred things happen day to day, second to second, minute to minute, hour by hour. Each breath that we breathe is a sacred thing. I had an elder tell me that, Tom Peters, he would say that words have power, and you only have so many words to use on this earth. Make sure you use them wisely. And that makes you think about that. Because the other truth is, you heard about karma is what you put out is what you get out of it, right? The energy that you put out in the world, if you have that negative, that mindset and blame and shame, that's gonna ultimately come back to you. And that's where you get that cycle, right? But you have a choice. You don't need to agree with everyone, right? I'm not saying that go around and be agreeable to everyone, but the idea is that don't let people force you to lose your humanity in who you are. All right? Don't let people take that away from you, because you can see your humanity and you can see other people's humanity. And if we start doing that more and more, that's lateral goodness. That's generational thinking. I saw a baby on there. Thanks for showing the baby. That's the work that we're doing, right? We're being good role models. And I'll tell you what, and I want to bring Maria on this here too, to talk about healing and planning, and I always feel like a Gona salesman of sorts, and you guys have done a lot of Gonas, but I want to bring Maria in, and we'll want to talk about the healing planning. I know we got a little bit of time left, but this idea is that we have elders that have life experience in this life, and life is not easy, right? It goes like this. Right? There's up and down. That's a natural law of the world. We can't always be up here, and we can't always stay down here. Life is like this, and it's how we deal with that is important, right? So our elders have a lot earth knowledge, a lot of life knowledge about living the years and seeing the world and interacting with different systems. Maybe they were formal project managers, wrote these grants, and they raised families, grandparents, great grandparents, aunties, uncles. They have life experience, which we need to honor and need to pay attention to those teachings they give us. And we also cannot forget the teachings that our young people give us. That that baby boy, I don't know how old was that, I'm guessing 4 or 5, maybe, around that age. But we think about that, and I know the folks, our parents, our aunties, our uncles, that your kids teach you some lessons really fast, don't they? Like the practical lessons of how to change diapers, right? When you got the accidents that go up the back and everything, oh no, how do we do that? That's a reality, right? They teach you lessons of how to do that. Yeah. And they teach you lessons also about how to see the world. Because our young people, the beauty that they have is they're not jaded by this life experience. So sometimes when we get older, we're kind of jaded, right? That's just how the things are. This is how it is. It's not going to change. This is how it is. I got aunties and uncles like that in my family. I got a dad who's like that. That's just how it is. It's never going to change, right? But these young people see the world and ask why. Why can't it be this way? Why do they do this? Why do they do that? Oh, look at that beautiful flower. They might see that for the first, they see it for the new eyes. And that's the teaching that our young people give us. They give us with the new eyes and new perspective of the world around us. And that's a great humbling teaching that we can't forget that. So our young people are also our elders. And in my book, this is just me talking. Elders to me is an earned title. It's not about an age thing. An age thing is senior citizens, right? You get a discount in movie theaters or whatnot. That some folks are senior citizens, but they might not be elders. You know what I mean? Like elders, in my perspective, is that person who has gained life knowledge and willing to share that in healthy ways for that person to get better, for you to get better. So any of us can be elders at different points in time, right? Maria is not my elder because she's older than me, right? She's my elder because she has a lot of life experience and a lot of good teachings that help me become a better person, right? Because I think Maria is only like 2 years older than me, something like that, right? No, Maria, I know we got like roughly 5-10 minutes left on here. But maybe you can give some thoughts here, because I always appreciate what you have to offer. And healing and planning. What are your thoughts on the importance of doing healing and planning?
Thank you for opening the door there. I just love this image that you've had up on here for us, because I like how you said before that for the longest time, and in fact, it was one of the deficits in our trainings, because we go, oh, we're going to talk about historical trauma. And right away the kids go, oh, not that again. And you're right. We would marinate. We've been marinating for a lot of years around historical trauma with good intentions, And finally we got to deconstructing, taking apart what are the root structures of historical trauma, what are the effects, and what's the legacy of that. And you really illustrate that beautifully there, that some of the legacy of historical trauma is how we oppress other people, etc., etc. But I love how you brought us to really taking a look at the right-hand side, where we recognize, remember, recordar, to remember our historical resiliency, the good that is still in us. They might call us savages, but we know how to talk to the animals. They might call us dirty Indians, but we know what plants that we can eat and what plants are remedios or remedies, or which ones we can eat and which ones we shouldn't even touch, because those plants are talking to us. And also on that right-hand side about how do we practice lateral goodness, not just to other people, but to ourselves. And I like how you said that you're going to hear, the first one that's going to hear anything that you're going to say is your own ears first. So in a way, you're kind of saying whatever rudeness you were going to put out yourself first. And maybe it's like you're saying that because that's how pitiful you feel in that moment. And that's a good check. Why do I have to say that? Or, I better, like St. Galifianakis says, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself, Because the minute you start going sideways, that's what's going to happen. And then that last piece, I love how you talk about healing and planning. But then you said it, you snuck it in there on us about visioning. What is our vision for ourselves? What is our vision for the future? So I love these 3x5 cards. I get them on sale at the store. And so then I put these up for myself. So instead of thinking in the future, I go, I'm not going to be peaceful. I am peaceful. I am loving. I am kindness. That I am walking those things that I want. And I really want to thank you for inviting us to do that. And you are so right. The reptilian brain, in fact, unfortunately, some people are born without the top part of their brain, right? That part that looks like a walnut. And just the little part that's like a little tail down here, that's our reptilian brain. That part of our brain, you could be born without the rest of part of your brain, but that part of your brain, that reptilian brain, will keep you, because
Maria freeze right there.
there's a lot of those people walking around. They just want to be cool, or they want to be hot, and they just want to keep that heartbeat going by just eating, but they don't have their kindness. They're not living their kindness. So you don't want to be that lizard. You don't want to be that lizard. So coming to a kindness part, you know what? I'm down for the giveaway that you said. In fact, I've been taking people's names down here. And I was just wondering if there's other people. Juanita, what is the name of your baby that's there with you? What's the name of my teacher over there with you, Juanita?
Zaya.
Zion?
Zaya.
Say that again.
Z-A-Y-A. Z-A-Y-A.
Zaya. All right.
Zaya.
What does that mean?
It's supposed to be victorious woman in the Tibet language.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Because I put together a wheel for us, Don, if you want.
All right, let's do it. See, we're giving stuff away here, and I think there's more stuff. So you show up, you get free stuff. How about that?
I'm gonna put Zaya's name on this wheel. If was there anybody else? Or I should ask Iwi, did you already have a wheel going?
Yes, but feel free. If you want to do a wheel too, I have a wheel too.
We could use your wheel if you already have it populated.
Yeah.
Let's use your wheel. Let's keep it
okay.
simple. Let's write on your wheel.
Okay.
So what are we gonna do here, Don?
All right, there's one last thing on that piece of paper. There was three things that we did too. So the last, this is you got it right there, Maria. Talk about visioning as a practice skill, right? Because if we grow up in a form of chaos, we get used to that unhealthy norms. So we need to practice visioning, right? It's a practice skill. So on that piece of paper, and I want to do it just in like 3 steps here. Where do you see yourself? What something healthy that you're going to do this evening? All right. In addition, being on here, right, hanging out with us, listening to me ramble and bad jokes, but you're here, right? So hopefully I was healthy. And then what are you going to do the rest of the week? And then what are you going to do the rest of the month? And I want to encourage you, if you lay that out and you revisit that on a daily basis, maybe it doesn't have to be every day, but every other day, to look at that practice of what you're going to do, something positive you're going to do for yourself. By the end of that month, that's going to become it's going to become a habit for you. Once it becomes a habit, then you can start really changing how you think about things, and then how you tangibly make things different. And that's the generational change that can happen. All right, so I felt like I rambled on. Hopefully you got some nuggets of something out of it that touched you and thought and encouraged you. And you know, before we start giving some free stuff away, I want to thank again for the opportunity to come and visit with you all. And thanks, Maria, for jumping on and supporting. Always valued. I love working with Maria any time of day, night, anywhere in the world. I'll work with Maria. And
Literally.
the same with Anacita and Santa Clara Valley. You know, really humbled that I had the opportunity to jump on and visit with the community. And you know, Yui told me this is the first one, so I'm really doubly honored to be the kickoff one with this. So, Shimi Gwich, you know, it's a big thank you from the Anishinaabe, and know that you guys are worthy, and there's great things going to happen for your community and your family. So, and you're worthy to make those changes happen. Oh, I'll pass it back to you, Yui.
Oh, thank you with great reverence and humility, with love. Thank you, Don Lyons and Maria. Thank you so much for you know, blessing us with your generosity and your presence. You know, there's so many things I'd like to highlight. You know, like just your presence is a positive affirmation. You know, you spoke about the different parts of our brain and you know, historical trauma, and as we grew up, it's challenging. You know, we have this observation, this awareness, but how do we discern? And so I wanted to acknowledge the moment, like the blessings that you talked about, everything we have here in the moment. So on behalf of the community and our agency, I want to thank you too, and our families for being here, for being that positive affirmation. And as you stated, if we do the healing work for our families and not focus what's wrong or the shame or the guilt, but by doing the work, us being here today, that positive affirmation being present, we're healing the past and the future. So I wanted to thank you for setting that example and kind of, you know, that and through that harmonious song and dance. But this workshop is in line with our theme year, honoring your resilience. So thank you for kicking off our workshop series, honoring us with your presence and our community, our families here, and those family members who are observing, our youth who are here. Thank you for joining us. This is for you. And so now, you know, with that, we want to acknowledge our families for taking those healthy risks. And as we usually do, we do a little wheel, and Tessa was kind enough to do the wheel, and our winner is Juanita. Can you see?
No.
Okay, let's do this. Oh, let me do this again. Okay, let's try this again. Here we go.
Sorry about that. I was
it's okay. So Juanita, you are the winner. So we're going to be able to send you a raffle, a prize shirt. So we'll reach out to you. Since you registered, we'll email you or we'll call you to get your size shirt. And we're going to do another raffle. I don't have my wheel on me. I'll do it again after the workshop tomorrow, and then we'll send another shirt.
So are we going to do one or two, Don?
I'll do two from my end, but feel free if you want to do one.
I found a way to send gift cards through email.
All right.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Like, I don't know if we have Starbucks fans on there. I haven't found a way to give a Visa gift card, but I could. But I'm willing to throw down $25, Maria, from my pocket. And if we can spin the wheel, yeah, $25 each.
Wonderful.
Okay. And then the winner, just I put my email in the chat. Just reach out to me with your email address, because I think that's what I need to send you the gift card, so you'll get it in your mail.
And Iwi, did you put Zaya and Savannah's name in there too?
Yeah, Tessa just left a little while ago, so we probably didn't add them. So I'll have to do another wheel for them.
All right.
What I can do here.
It's not too late to add them to the wheel, right?
I know. I'm going to go ahead and abbreviate their names. Let me see where my app is at.
Make it fun. Mix it up here.
Okay, here we go. So let me do the wheel here.
So that was 25 for me and 50 for you, Don?
Yeah, I think it was 75 from you and 25 from me.
Just in the spirit of generosity, yeah. 25 and 25.
Yes. All right, so let's do here. Give me a second.
That'll become a norm for the next speaker.
Yeah, setting the precedent.
That's me. Oh.
You.
And I'm just gonna, because it's taking a little longer than I expected, I'm gonna abbreviate their names and I'm gonna point to whichever name I get. Give me a second, all right? So this one.
Oh, while he's doing that, can people put their numbers in there? Just the idea. Hopefully, you at least stayed the same number, or maybe it got up just a little bit. That would be cool.
Kiwi, if you want, I have the wheel already done.
Okay, you have it. Okay, we'll just follow your wheel then. Thank you.
Okay, let me share it.
All right. Okay, let me allow you to share it.
Can you see it?
Yes, we can. We can see it.
All right. So everybody's name there is on the side. And Juanita, with your, here we go. So everybody's in it because they did the t-shirt thing. But here we go. This is for the first $25. So you see everybody's name on there?
Yes.
Anybody's name not in there? Okay. I'll count to 3. And if you don't say nothing, it's going. 1,
1, 2, 3.
3.
Yeah. Where's the music, Maria?
Hey.
I didn't put it in.
Oh, Regina.
Oh, Regina. Congratulations.
No, it's Rudy. It's Rudy.
Rudy.
What? Regina, man.
No, let me call it.
So funny.
It's Rudy.
You had a delay.
I know. That was a delay.
That was a rookie move right there. Oh, man.
Oh,
All right. But the computer doesn't lie. Okay. So
Congratulations.
All right, so
I'm going to remove Rudy's name. Thank you. Thank you to our winner right there. Winner, chicken dinner. And okay, the last one from us. So this is for another 25. Ready? Give me the thumbs up. 1, 2, 3. No way.
No, give it to someone else.
Oh, Myron.
I know. It looked like it was going to be you two again, huh?
No, take me out.
I know. That's good. We shared the wealth. Okay, thank you.
Nice. Thank you, guys.
I'm going to stop sharing.
all right, Maria, I'll take Rudy, send me your email and I'll get you a gift card.
No, nice.
Wonderful.
And you got the second winner's name too?
So I have Juanita's for the shirt, and I'm going to do another one tomorrow with surprise raffle.
And both of the people are going to contact you, Don?
Yeah.
All right.
Both folks and send. I put my email in the chat, so reach out to me.
Wonderful. So with that, thank you again, everyone, for joining us. I wanted to let you know at the end of the series, we're going to be sending out a survey for you to evaluate your experience and any recommendations on how to improve our workshop series. And once you complete the survey, we'll be sending you out a $30 gift card for completing that and just helping assist improve our programs and meeting the needs of our community. And so the last series that we had helped improve our program for this series and recommendations on the topics that our community would like. And so with that, I'd like to, again, thank you everyone for joining us. And we're looking forward for next week. We're honored and blessed to have Maria is going to be back next week. And so we're really humbled and excited. And Don, you're welcome back to join us. So yes, we're happy to have Maria same time at 5:30 p.m. So please invite your family, your relatives, your no matter where they're at, even if they're not in San Jose, they're outside of the state or wherever. Feel free to
Invite your exes and your enemies.
Exactly. We want to close off with a prayer, and I just want to wish everybody a wonderful good evening. Sending lots of blessings to all our families and our team members, to Dawn and your family, and your relatives, and Maria and all our families here. Thank you, Delia, for closing off our gathering tonight, our circle. So I pass the word to you, Delia. Thank you so much. Your mute is on, Delia.
Okay. See, I don't know how to work any of this stuff.
Oh, you're doing good.
I want to say thank you to everyone. I truly enjoyed this. I thought I would only be on to do the blessing and then get back on to do another blessing, but I enjoyed it and the time went by so fast. And it's like, this is what I really need. I need to, it's like when you're home alone, you're just home alone. And this really helped me. I want to send many blessings for the Indian health community, that I can be a part of this. I think it's really special, Iwi, that you give me that call and ask me to do it. And I go, oh no, what am I going to say? But yet somehow some words come out. And trauma, you talked about trauma, and trauma brings up trauma for me, the word trauma. And when someone says Gardner community, then it brings up a lot of trauma. And I haven't seen Gardner schools since I was maybe 11 years old when we moved away from there. But that area brought me trauma. And I always thought it was going to go away, and it hasn't. It's someday. But I do get to talk about it a little bit more each time, and it becomes scary. I wish every single one of you the very best from my heart to your heart, to be safe, keep your family close to you, keep praying and keep singing and keep dancing. Because no matter what trauma we go through, we are the only people that can sing, dance, and pray no matter what our trauma is. And that's something that we shall never give up. Blessings to you and your families and to this whole community. Thank you. Thank you. I love you. Aho. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a good evening. We won't say goodbye. We say Kino Ksepa in my native language. I'll see you later. Thank you, Anisita, everyone, the team members, Vicente, Maria, Don. Have a good evening. And Creator permitting, we'll see you next Wednesday, same time, same channel.
Thank
Bless
you.
everybody.
Bless you.
Thank
Bye.
you.